Hey everybody, this is Miss Reinerson. Today I'm going to talk to you all about T-charts. I'm calling this lesson my cup of tea chart, but actually T-charts don't really have anything to do with the drink tea, do they? We can get rid of that. Alright, so today we're going to be taking T-charts to the floor level. What I mean by that is you're going to be making a T-chart on the floor. Yeah, so if you've got some duct tape and some dry erase markers and a place where you can do that on the floor and erase them real easily, that would be amazing. If you don't, you can just get a big sheet of paper and make your T-chart on the floor. Um, but the first thing I need you to do is get your journals out, and we're going to be making some T-charts with our own journals as we go. So just hang tight, pay attention, and I'll explain to you what we're doing as we go. Okay, the first thing I want us to do is define our goals for today. What's our goal? Well, our first goal is this. Why don't you repeat after me? Here we go. I can find opposing information in a text to determine whether a text is for or against an argument. All right, now this next time, I'm going to talk like a pirate, and you talk like a pirate too, okay? Here we go. Me first. I can discuss why information support sorted tracks. That means take away from the argument. All right, very good. I hope you spoke with a pirate voice and shocked your family. Okay, let's go see what the next slide says. All right, so the first thing we need to understand is what an argument is. In my last PowerPoint, we talked about arguments. So what I want you to do right now is take your piece of paper and write down what you think an argument is. All right. So, if you wrote that an argument is like a fight between two people, that's a very extreme version of an argument. Well, when I think of an argument for our purposes, I'm thinking of this. An argument is a reason that somebody gives to support an opinion, okay? So, let's see if we can find some arguments in this portion of text right here. Let's find the arguments. This is a story that a boy is telling because he thinks that a bird laid an egg on his head, and all of a sudden he has to figure out whether he should smash the egg and go to school or whether he should wait and let the egg hatch. Here we go. I'll read it to you, and you see if you can find the arguments that two different characters give Mrs. Worm and a cat for whether or not he should destroy the egg that's on his head. I saw something move, and I heard a loud sound of a worm who was having a fight with his wife, the most terrible fight I have heard in my life. That wormy was saying, "That boy must not wait. He must not. He dare not. He cannot be late. That boy ought to smash that egg off his head." But then the wife of the worm shouted back, and she said, "To break that dear egg would be terribly cruel. An egg's more important than going to school. That egg is the mother bird's pride and her joy. If he smashes that egg, he's the world's meanest boy." And while the whoops. Okay, so let's pause there. Okay, let's think about this. Should Marco smash the egg? Well, let's think about some of the people who were talking. Okay, let's see. Let's look back. Okay, we've got Mrs. Worm. She has several reasons why she does not think Marco should smash the egg. Go ahead and draw a T-chart on your paper, okay? And let's see if we can find some of these reasons. I'm going to give you a minute, and let's see if you can write them down. Here we go. I'm going to wait. Okay, in this period of time, I would wait for my students just for a little bit. And now I'm going to move on. All right, so if you said that she thought that breaking the egg would be terribly cruel, yeah, that's an argument she uses. Another one is that an egg's more important than going to school. Another one would be that the egg is a mother bird's pride and her joy. And finally, if he smashes that egg, he's the world's meanest boy. Now, which of these do you think is the best reason that Mrs. Worm gives? If you think that it's that the egg is the mother bird's pride and her joy, that one right there that my little cursor's going around, you are correct. The egg is the mother bird's pride and her joy. Why is this the best reason? Well, let's think about this. One of the arguments that we want to have, that we want to find from a text, is called expert opinion, right? Now, I don't think that Mrs. Worm is probably an expert opinion on things that are terribly cruel. Unless maybe she grew up in a family of brothers. Maybe. Uh, or if she's not a teacher, may, I don't know. I don't know if she can say that an egg's more important than going to school. And who is she to say that breaking an egg would be make you the world's meanest boy? Like she's not the queen of the world. But if she's a Mrs., then she probably knows something about being a mother. We're just gonna assume she has little worms. Maybe she doesn't, but I imagine she wants little worms if she doesn't have them. So she probably knows something about how important little worms or little birds might be. So I think there that is probably her best reason. Let's see who else has something to say about Marco. And while the worms argued about what I should do, a couple big cats started arguing too. Now you listen to me, I heard one of them say. If that boy does not go to school right away, Miss Flock will be frightfully, horribly mad. If he turns up late, she'll punish the lad. We're gonna stop there. Okay, let's see what some of the reasons that this cat gave. Let's see. Can you tell me some? Here, I'll flip black so you can see. All right. Yeah, if you said that Miss Block would be angry, very good. You know, we don't have to say that she'd be frightfully, horribly mad. We can just say that she'd be angry. That's a fast way to say it. Something else she said was that what the cat said was that she'd punish Margot. My thing about these is that I don't know. I don't know if they're really good reasons or not. Because my thing is, I don't know if that cat knows Miss Block. Unless that cat belongs to Miss Block and lives at her house, I don't know if he can necessarily say that Miss Block would be angry that Marco was protecting an egg, or that she'd punish Marco. Okay, now it's time to really get started. Let's explain that massive T-chart that you are going to be making on the floor of wherever it is that you're learning. Okay? So, hopefully you're not by yourself. Hopefully you've got at least 3 friends with you. Okay, so look around and say hello to your friends. Okay, so I'm going to have 4 roles for you guys today. Now the first role is that of a researcher. The researcher is supposed to look through the text and find at least one reason to put on the T-chart. This would be an argument that you find. Look and see if it's an expert opinion or a statistic. Those are always really good reasons. But then especially make sure that this goes back to the main overarching question that we're asking for this T-chart. Should the government tell schools what kind of lunch menus they can have? That's our overarching question, right? So if it's meaningful, it's going to relate to that. Now I know in one portion of the text it said something like 10,000 scientists went to Washington to talk about this. But it didn't really say what they said about this law, so that's not really a good reason. Role 2, you're also a researcher. You gotta find another reason to put on the T-chart. Okay, role 3, you're gonna be an evaluator. You're like the judge. So you've gotta ask a couple questions to your researchers. Ask them if their points, if their arguments, if they're meaningful. Ask them. Make sure that those points go back to the main overarching question that we're asking. Should the government tell schools what to give their students for lunch? And then we also want to make sure that the people who are giving this information, make sure that they give us good information. Make sure that they really know what they're talking about. Who said it? If you've got those 2 things, then it's probably a really good piece of information. All right, rule number 4, you are our reporter. Your job is to write those 2 reasons on the T-chart. You're also an extra expert on hand. You can help the evaluator evaluate if you need to. Okay, so now what I want you to do is just preview the text. You got about 30 seconds to go through that text, and then you'll read your section of the article. Go! All right, so after the students have read through their section of the text, the researchers, they're going to find the reasons within their section of the text. The text is divided into 4 different sections, and so when I taught this, I had at least 6 different groups of students, and I had 4 different sections. So 2 sections were read a couple times by several different groups. The researchers looked through and they found their points and they wrote them down on their paper. The evaluators made sure that they were really good reasons, and then the reporters went down and wrote them down on the giant T-chart that we had on the floor. It was a really good lesson and really fun. My only thing is make sure that those dry erase markers will come up off the floor because they were really hard to erase off that classroom floor. Other than that, that's my lesson. Oh, nope, it's not. After that, we sort of discussed our findings. We just made sure that everybody knew what was what and how it worked. And that was the lesson for that day. It actually took a whole lot longer. This last part we didn't really get to focus on as much because it took a long time for the students to get all that information together. It was a hard lesson for those fourth graders. All right, so that is my lesson. And this is Rebecca Randerson, or Miss Randerson, as I have been called for the past month or two. And that is that. Thank you and goodbye.